Whenever my sales are up and we have a good year, I make sure I increase my line of credit in case something happens and there's a recession and I can't pay my team. Now is the time to get a line of credit when you have a good pipeline of work. You don't get a line of credit when business is not good. So be mindful of that. When business is good, make sure you have a line of credit and you apply for a line of credit or increase your line of credit. Welcome to the Architect My Business podcast. I'm Shlachter, your host, founder, and CEO of MGS Global Group. We provide architectural drafting and rendering services for busy firm owners and designers. From starting out solo to now leading a team of over 45 and growing, I've learned a thing or two about making a business thrive. Whether you're thinking of starting, already managing, or want to take your business to the next level, this podcast is for you. Each episode is packed with simple, actionable tips in leadership, people, marketing, processes, and of course, profit. I keep things real. Like you, I've got no time for fluff. This podcast is brought to you by MGS Global Group. Now, let's get into this episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Architect My Business podcast. I'm your host, Shlachter, and today we have a very exciting episode. And it's also International Women's Month. So I'll be talking about the stats of women in architecture, the women in podcasting in architecture, a personal story I'm going to share about mom guilt. I'm sure a lot of you women in the field struggle with this, as well as I'll be covering topics about my AI experiment and also economy stuff, how to deal with business uncertainty with people saying that there's going to be a recession. So lots of things to talk about. So before we start, I just wanted to share some of the statistics I have with regards to women in architecture. And it's quite remarkable, actually, that there's a lot of women entering the field of architecture. So 30 to 35% of architects worldwide are actually women, around 750,000 to 875,000. Approximately 2.5 million architects globally are women. Second, almost half of architecture students in the US are women. It's good that women are entering the profession. Third, here in the US, approximately 27% of the licensed architects are women, and 70 to 20% of leadership positions in architecture firms are led by women. It's not surprising that the last president of the AIA, Kimberly Dowdell, was a woman, and also Evelyn Lee, who just started her, year as the AIA national president. I look forward to seeing what Evelyn Lee does for the profession. I know there's an AIA national conference coming up in June. I'm sorry that I won't be able to attend, but I'm sure I'll hear all about it from my peers and colleagues. So in honor of Women's Month, I want to honor the women podcasters in the AEC industry. I know as a podcaster myself, it's quite difficult to produce one episode, let alone hundreds of podcasts. So these women have been phenomenal at sharing their podcasts, from curating content to inviting guests to doing post-production. It is quite a task to produce one episode. How much more for the hundreds of episodes that these women have done. So let me read to you some of the women that I'm celebrating this Women's History Month. Architected podcast by Caitlin Brady. She explores women in the AEC profession. Recently, she interviewed Denise Scott Brown. For you architecture grads and architects, I'm sure you know Denise Scott Brown. She is an institution and a living legend. I think she wrote the book, Learning from Las Vegas. We all learned that in our history of urban planning and urban design. Another one is Mentor Dino podcast by Caitlin Rossier. Caitlin explores different career paths in the AEC industry, about career journeys, transitions, and advancements. She also has a YouTube channel, Mentor Dino. Last I heard, she also has courses on leadership. So check her out, Mentor Dino, YouTube and podcast. Another phenomenal podcast is She Builds Podcast by three women, Jessica, Norjury, and Lissy. They talk about hidden contributions of women in design. Most of the women that they highlight are actually, have passed on, and they're historical figures. The good thing about this podcast is you learn about these women that you don't learn in grad school or in textbook, because some of them people don't write about these women. So Jessica Norgery and Lizzie really take time to curate and research all these phenomenal women in the architecture industry. And I think from my conversation with them, one of the universities has actually used their podcast as part of their curriculum. So check it out. Another podcast that is very important and very now is the Healthy Architect podcast by Morgan Shawaga. I met Morgan in the Entre Architect conference last year. I've known about Morgan forever. She was on my podcast as well. The Healthy Architect. She advocates for women to have better work life balance, how to reduce stress and burnout. And now it's kind of her new thing. She's helping women architects negotiate their salary. So not only do they have better salaries, they also have better work life balance. Another podcast is from the Honeycomb, Katerina Buryanova. I was on her podcast and she was on my podcast. She talks about entrepreneurship, creativity. You know, I like her because she invites her husband and friends. It's not particularly an architecture only focused podcast. She talks about other things as well. Practice Disrupted by Evelyn Lee, one of my favorite podcasts that I really listen to. She talks about how the industry is changing, technology, AI, and emerging best practices. Evelyn Lee, like I mentioned, is also the current AIA national president. But one podcast that is really phenomenal is the Detailed Podcast by Cherise Lakeside. The Detailed Podcast is a podcast produced by ARCAT. ARCAT is an architecture catalog. Check them out if you are an architect and wanting to know all different types of specifications. Check out ARCAT. But Cherise Lakeside's podcast has really exceeded her expectations and everyone's expectations. She reached 1 million views, and that's not normal in the architecture profession. She's like the top 1 to 2% of podcasters who has reached a phenomenal 1 million views. So the Detailed Podcast is a series that features architects, engineers, builders, and manufacturers who share their insight and expertise as they highlight some of the most complex, interesting, and oddest building conditions that they have encountered. So it's really kind of like a diary of a project from beginning to end and the challenges that architects, contractors, clients face and how they were able to finish the project. So check it out, Detailed Podcast. Next, I want to share a personal story about mom guilt. How many moms out there in the profession suffer from mom guilt? I personally, as a mom and an entrepreneur, I always have this thing that I should not be working that hard. I shouldn't be traveling that much. And sometimes I really feel guilty because I'm out of town a lot. So I miss out on a lot of things. But one thing that I know is that when I'm back, I'm truly present for my family and for my kids. My best friend told me that the kids won't remember the times that you were gone or the times that you missed dinners, but they will remember the quality time you spent with your kids one on one. So when I'm in town, I make sure I take my daughter out. Or last year, I took my daughter to New York City, just the two of us. So these are the moments they remember, especially as a person who travels a lot. It's really important to focus on each kid individually and create memories for your kids. So I have a very heartwarming story. My son came home from school last week and mentioned that he picked me as a Lifetime Achievement Award. Basically, they talk about a person who they want to give the Lifetime Achievement Award to, and he picked me. And I was extremely surprised and happy that, oh, finally, my kids see that I'm a working mom, that I've built a few successful businesses. But when I read his paper, because he had to recite it to me and practice, he barely touched on the businesses that I've done. Rather, he talked about how fun I am to be with, all the trips we've taken all over the country and, in Asia and Europe. He talked about our experiences in different places, trying out the best restaurants. My son is a foodie. He also talked about the fact that I always drive him and encourage him to do sports like chess, pickleball, jiu-jitsu, and all the things. And one of the things that struck me is, I realized that I was successful in terms of making sure my kids felt my presence when I was around. It's so easy for us parents to just zone out and be on our electronics and screens. But as a person and a mom and an entrepreneur who travels so much, I make sure I spend quality time with my kids as much as I can. I remember Evelyn Lee posted on LinkedIn and asked a question because she also travels a lot, and she asked a question on her LinkedIn, what do you do to make sure that you spend quality time with your kids when you come home from work? For me, every time I have the opportunity to drive my kids around to pickleball or to the gym, I take that opportunity because it's those 5 to 8 minutes in the car rides that really create a bond, and there's no distractions and no electronics. So that's one way of, spending quality time with my kids. Obviously, my kids love my cooking. So whenever I come back from out of town, I make sure I prepare their meal. So that was really nice that my son picked me as the Lifetime Achievement Award. But I still have mom guilt, especially when I travel a lot. I'm traveling again next week for PodFest Asia. I'm one of the organizers of this international conference, and we're bringing in a lot of international speakers from the US, Singapore, the Philippines, and it's going to be exciting. I will be sharing more about PodFest in my next episode. So, next topic is AI related. So, last week, I did an AI experiment. I just wanted to test AI, and I asked AI a question. I used ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, DeepSeek, all the same questions. And the question that I asked was, what are the top five biggest challenges in the AEC industry is facing right now in 2025? Guess what the answer was across all platforms? AI consensus, labor shortages, and workforce development was ranked the number one challenge the AEC is facing right now. So, knowing that as an industry, how can we contribute to solving this problem? The AEC has an opportunity to embrace new ways of working, innovative business models, and talent solutions to build this gap. As we all know, 10% of the architects in the US are expected to retire. A lot of the baby boom generation, who are mostly small firms, are retiring and they have no succession plans. So there are labor shortage because of the architects that are retiring. A lot of people have quit the profession, specifically some of the women during COVID. And also, there is a gap in the talent pool for those architects that have 5 to 10 years of experience. So now there is a huge labor shortage across the industry, not only for architects, but also contractors, tilers, and all the different fields and services around the AEC industry. So I know this for a fact because I've been trying to get a client for 18 years. I've been talking to them. I've been in the business for 18 years. And there's this one particular client I really wanted to work with because they're retail heavy. And that was my area of expertise 18 years ago. We're diversified now. But now they contacted me and asked if I could work with them. And I asked them the question, like, why did it take 18 years for you to hire me? Again, we've been in touch, what it's like in the profession. You go meet in happy hours and industry events. The same answer was labor shortages. Again, it's really hard to find talented and mid-level architects at this point, especially when there are project spikes. And there's certain industries that are actually very busy right now. I'll talk about that later. So, what are you doing in your firm to help, solve this problem? In my opinion, when you have, shortage of team members, that could really affect your bottom line because right now, if you have projects, you make sure you're able to deliver so you have cash flow coming into your business. You don't have the luxury of really putting your clients on a wait list because you don't know what the economy is going to be like. A friend of mine who is an architect running his own firm mentioned that his residential client, wanted to buy all of the materials now before the tariffs came and everything got so expensive. So you don't want to lose out on these opportunities because you don't have qualified staff. So at our company, MGS Global, we are a construction documentation company. So we help architects with construction documentation from schematic design all the way to construction documentation. So for the last 18 years, we've been providing support staff to retailers, architects, interior designers, as-built providers so that they can produce all of the construction documentation. And we're really here to fill in the gaps, especially during project spikes. So right now we have a range of different project types from hospitality, retail, multifamily, or even in the solar space, institutional, educational, place of worship. So these are the project types we've built for the last 18 years of the company. So one of the things that MGS provides as well is we help architects and architecture firms shorten their hiring process. Right now, it takes an average of 16 weeks for an architecture firm to hire, from job placement, making the resumes, to arranging the interviews, to selection, to also giving your the firms your notice. That takes a while. When you hire a person, they have to give their current employers their notice. Sometimes it's 4 to 6 weeks before you start on board. So right now I'm seeing architecture firms hiring employees in 16 to 18 weeks. So there's a crucial gap of like around 10 weeks where they could be doing production work. Instead, they're waiting for the employees to be onboarded and start working. In MGS Global, it only takes us 5 weeks from when you get on a discovery call until onboarding, because we have pre-selected resumes already in our pipeline for different types of architecture services and skill sets to serve your needs. So if you ever need architects right now in different industries and different skill sets and software, like we use AutoCAD, ArchiCAD, Revit, all the different software our company uses. So we're here to really provide architects and designers with staff to really support your pipeline, especially during project spikes. You don't want to be hiring and firing your employees if you don't have to. It's not also good for the company culture when you have a cycle of hiring and firing, and it's not sustainable for the firm. So some of the solutions, if some of you are not ready to outsource or work with external providers, for the US architects, I think you need to build a network of subcontractors. You can talk to friends, colleagues who are willing to do freelance work for you when you have project spikes. Second, you can promote from within. So instead of hiring outside, you can see who are the people in your team that can take the higher level positions, project management positions, because you never know, they might be ready for these positions. Also, one of the things I talk about is really hiring is a two-way street. What do I mean by that? It's no longer an employer's market anymore. It's also an employee's market. So employees are also qualifying you if you're a good company to work for, if you have good culture, work-life balance. So one of the hiring strategies that we use in our company is our social media. We have a very robust social media Instagram page where we highlight all the fun things we do at the office, like our ping pong events, and we have a gym in the building. So we show that we have a gym and people working out, or sometimes we hang out and have bubble tea together. So it's these things that can help attract talent. So again, hiring is a two-way street. Try to find ways where you can find potential employees and attract them to your firm. Another suggestion I have is create employee testimonials. Yes, maybe in your LinkedIn page, you can highlight an employee and giving testimonials of why they love working for you or how long they've been in your firm. Again, this is a way of attracting talent. You have a bigger chance of hiring the best talent if you and your company show a good work culture on your social media and on your website. Also, another thing is providing mentorship to the new grads. I think mentorship is really important because I know we can get so busy and have short fuses if the people that we hire are not ready. But remember, these new grads have very little to no experience. So I think training them and making sure we're nurturing the new grads can really lead to, long-term employees. I've hired so many employees fresh out of grad school or fresh out of college, and they've been with me for years. My longest employee has been with me for 15 years. Ken has been with me for 15 years, and I've just kept on promoting him and also, giving him promotions and raises, which he deserves. Another thing is, explore some AI tools, because there are AI tools that can help you manage your workflows and really optimize some of your processes. For instance, ChatGPT to help you with your emails, or if you're looking to help ideate more of your design processes, you can use Maquette.ai. They're an AI tool that really helps you with residential floor plans, or if you are doing multifamily and you want different ideations in terms of site planning, Snaptrude is good, TestFit is good. Hectare, which I just reviewed, is also very good and affordable. Again, you have these AI tools that can help you when if you don't have all the stuff that can help you. I urge you to check out my other podcast, AI for Architects podcast, where I do all the tool reviews and use cases of these particular tools that can help you really with your workflows. Also, check out my LinkedIn profile. I share almost daily in terms of what's going on in business development, AI. Check out my LinkedIn, Aya Shlachter. So, my question for you is, how is your firm adapting to the labor shortage? Are you hiring, outsourcing, or leveraging AI? So, one hot topic right now is how to deal with business uncertainty and recession. I know a lot of my friends are worried about their pipeline and what's going to happen this year because of the tariffs and the interest rates. So, here are some of the project types that are doing okay, and what project types are thriving and what are not. So, the single family right now, it's March 2025, they're a little bit slowing down. The multifamily and hospitality remain stable. Mixed use development are still consistently moving. Infrastructure and education, data centers and manufacturing remain strong this quarter. So no slowdown there because data centers, for instance, I mentioned this earlier, a lot of data centers are popping out everywhere because of AI. So knowing this, right? How do you deal with potential recession and fear of your business pipeline? So that's one thing I was super nervous about, and when I'm nervous I always ask my mentors and business consultants and some of my peers. And I also look at past experiences and how I dealt with this uncertainty. So I remember I survived the 2008 recession, and also we survived the 2020 pandemic where I almost shut down the business. So here is what I learned and what kind of experiences I can use as a reference point so I don't get too nervous. So one of the things that I did in the past was really to get a line of credit when I was doing well. Whenever my sales are up and we have a good year, I make sure I increase my line of credit in case something happens and there's a recession and I can't pay my team. Now is the time to get a line of credit when you have a good pipeline of work. You don't get a line of credit when business is not good. So be mindful of that. When business is good, make sure you have a line of credit and you apply for a line of credit or increase your line of credit. One of the things too that I've learned is to build strategic partnerships. Let's say you're a residential architect and you know that the next quarter is not looking good for you. As early as now, you need to kind of find people in the architecture space who are busy so you can build strategic partnerships and work with them, especially when they have overflow. It's a win-win situation for the people in architecture firms who are busy and for you who need additional work, especially during the recession. One of the things I've really mastered doing is really double down on marketing. I know during the 2008 recession and the 2020 pandemic, I really made sure I built my podcast, my website, created a lot of content. I'm not saying you need to double down on marketing when there's a recession and where you're paranoid. Marketing should be consistent. You need to budget at least 10% of your revenue to marketing consistently whenever there's a downturn or when you're doing well. That's one of my SOPs in the business. I really make sure I have 5 to 10% allocated for marketing. So when there's a recession or a slowdown, maybe it's time to upgrade your portfolio, your website, get client testimonials, get new photos for your website, interview your employees, put their testimonials on your website. If you have a dog, put the dog in your team website. People love that stuff. So it's a time for you to really, improve the marketing and improve the websites and do the things that you've put off in the past because you're too busy. So that's one of the things you can do when you're not that busy, right? All the administrative things that you've put aside. Also, as a firm owner, it's also important when I was talking about line of credit, you have reserves like For me, I make sure I have 6 months worth of payroll, but some people have 3 months, 2 months, but whatever is, if you have up to 3 months worth of operation expenses covered, then you're in good shape. Another thing a friend of mine told me about the recession, it gave me a sigh of relief because he mentioned that an average recession only lasts 10 to 11 months. Historically, since 1857, a typical recession is 10 to 11 months, sometimes 18 months. So if you can really tighten your belts and make sure, you manage your finances really well and cash flow, I think we can really ride this wave, right? So I think that's one thing. If you're worried, if people are worried, tell them, guys, the average recession is 10 to 11 months. There's a lot you can do in those 10 months. Like I said, build your website, double down on marketing, create content, improve your processes, internal processes to prepare for the search of projects post recession. Thanks for tuning into the podcast. There's a lot to reflect on in this episode. We talked about women in architecture, dealing with mom guilt, the labor shortages, and what to do in case there is a recession. So, despite the economic uncertainties, I think we have all the tools we need to thrive, not only survive. So, architecture school has equipped us with this because we are creative problem solvers, right? We also have the tools like all the resources that we have, the podcast that I shared, Practice Disrupted to future proof your practice, The Healthy Architect to manage stress and burnout, AI for architects to check out what tools there are to help you optimize your processes and workflows. All these podcasts offer valuable insights to help you really deal with all of the things or just get information to educate yourself. There's so much out there, no shortage there. So, in general, I feel like as a profession, we are really fortunate to be part of the profession where collectively, as a whole, globally, we strive to uplift and enhance the value of the architects. There's a lot of talk about why architects are not paid as much as doctors and lawyers, but right now, a lot of architecture firms, a lot of podcast articles are really out there to help us increase the value of our profession through education and content. One of the things I think that you should check out is the detailed podcast. If you have clients who are complaining about your fees being too high or too expensive, if you listen to the detailed podcast, you will see all the things that architects have to do from the beginning all the way to the end and all the challenges we have to face to come up with the best project for you. That's a good resource to educate the clients on the value of the architect. Again, success comes from being resourceful. I'm a believer of education, really, and empowering yourself through education because when you learn, you have the confidence to make decisions, especially when there's uncertainty. If you're a firm owner, a business leader, or a project manager, education and knowledge, learning and accumulating knowledge is really important so that you can best make decisions for your team. Also, we have community we can join, masterminds you can join. I'm part of two masterminds, the Entre Architect Mastermind with Architects and Allies, as well as I have a mastermind with content creators to help me with podcasting and my YouTube channel. Also, one of the things that we need to bear in mind as leaders and firm owners is that we need to maintain an open mindset, right? And strategic preparation is really, really important in making key decisions for our team and our businesses, because this is one of the contributing factors to our success, especially with all the things that's going on, right? To be strategic about your decision making and to educate yourself as a leader. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. I really, truly enjoy hearing from you. So feel free to reach out if you have any podcast guests you want me to interview, women in architecture, or just want to chat. Send me an email at i@mgsglobalgroup.com. And if you think that your colleagues and friends could benefit from this podcast, please share the link to our podcast, Architect My Business. We are on Spotify and everywhere you listen to the podcast. And subscribe wherever you listen. Thanks so much for listening. Till next time. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Architect My Business podcast. If you want more, head over to architectmybusiness.com for more episodes, show notes, and links to everything mentioned in this episode. Don't forget to catch our mini shows, Her Space, Ask Aya, and our main show, Architect My Business. If you enjoyed our episodes and want to hear more, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Your feedback really helps us grow. Stay tuned for the next episode. Bye!